Hey, what's going down, Savages? Welcome to episode 6 of Le Savage Show. I'm your host, Stéphane Paulin. And before I get to my guest for this week, I know at the beginning of this, if you've been following along, I relaunched the podcast. The first thing I did, I changed the name from This Savage Life to Le Savage Show. The reason for that is I wanted to have French episodes, French guests on, and so I changed the name a little bit. Added a little French to it, Le Savage Show, and I liked it. It struck a chord with me, and I saw an opportunity to kind of relaunch the podcast, give it a bit more visibility after not doing it for a few months. The French episodes is something I had been thinking about during this pandemic. It's something that I wanted to add to the podcast, so I did it. The idea was that I was going to do alternating episodes between French and English, English-French. Also, I mentioned that I was going to do these seasons. Season 1, I was going to release like 10 or 12 episodes, all alternating, maybe 12 episodes, 6 English, 6 French. But like everything I try to do with a plan, sometime it doesn't always work out. And this week I thought about it, and it's sometimes a bit challenging to be able to record episodes where you have an English and a French episode either for the week or for alternating weeks. So I said, you know what, fuck this. I'm just going to do it like I did it before. I'm going to reach out to the guests. I'm going to record the episodes and I'm going to release them. And it's not important if it's 2 English episodes and then 1 French where they're not alternating. I don't have to stress out about that. So if one week like this week where I'm releasing 2 episodes in a row which are English or the same language, it doesn't really matter. I'll be announcing if the episodes are English and French in advance. At least it'll be that, but the whole alternating. So if you're expecting a French episode this time around, just know that I kind of, did away with all of that. So with that said, Le Savage Show, episode 6, had a great conversation with one another of my favorite humans. If you've listened to my other episodes of my podcast before, being a pro wrestler, I've been able to meet these guys and form this kind of relationship, and we call it a brotherhood. I love these guys, and this guy that I had a conversation with this week is one of those guys. I met him through Torture Chamber Pro Wrestling Dojo, and we quickly formed this strong relationship. I love this guy, and we had a great conversation this past week. I really hope you enjoy our conversation. So here we go, episode 6 of Le Savage Show with Gabriel Del Cid Pinto. All right. First off, man, thanks for accepting my invitation to come on the podcast, man. Greatly appreciate it.
Yo, thank you for having me, man. I've been seeing your podcast for a while. I'm like, yo, when is Steph gonna call me? No, jokes. No, but honestly, it's an honor, man. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, we spoke a while back. I asked you, and I was always planning on having you on. It's I try to schedule either 1 or 2 episodes a week, and I'm trying to not have 3 or 4 wrestlers or guys in the business all at once, because I want to try to mix it up. It's not always easy. People. Most of the time when I invite people, they say yes, but sometimes it's I'll say I can, but not this week. It'll be maybe in a couple of weeks. I just try to mingle, man. How you been?
Yo, I'm good, man. I'm good. I think I speak for everybody when I say that COVID is just
enough is enough, right?
No, enough, man. I'm tired of it.
Man, it's getting to me. I won't lie, man. I was talking with this, I forget who it was. I think it was my wife for sure, but someone else. And I said, I've had enough. I understand that it's going to be a different life from now on, post pandemic. It's never going to get back to normal, but there's a few things that I realize that I need in my life. And if I don't get them back soon, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for me, my mental, and not going to be good for a lot of people, I think.
No, and you're right. But here's the funny part though. And I think people have been complaining about it on social media and maybe even on TV, but we're not allowed to meet up. We're not allowed to have visit at home, but for 4 days during the holidays, you're allowed to have family over. But the disease is not going to disappear within those 4 days. So why can't we still do that now? You don't want people at the gyms or too many people at the grocery stores, but you're 200 people at Costco, at Walmart, and all those stuff, so.
It sucks when you see pictures of people in places like Costco, like I'm sure you've seen a few pictures where people are standing in line, and for the most part, they're not even
Not even.
social distancing. They everybody. I've been around. I'll be honest. Like I'll go to the mall if I need to and stuff, or I go to the grocery store and stuff. Everybody wears their mask. I haven't seen anybody not wear their mask. It's just the whole question for me was always, especially when it came to gyms, like I don't understand. Like these are the businesses that I saw put the most effort in
Yeah,
following all the guidelines. The restaurants, I saw so many restaurants or little like ice cream parlors in the summer. Like they did their part. They would only let, like, I don't know, one customer at a time in their store. They wouldn't even let anybody in. It's only at the door. Like they did
yeah,
everything because they understood that they needed to stay open. And if
yes,
they didn't do above and beyond the restrictions, which a lot of them did, like if they didn't go above and beyond, like this shit was gonna go down again. And then it went down. And the first place they closed was the fucking gyms and the restaurants. And then you're like, man, that sucks. Cause it's like we invested all this money on all this summer to revamp our business and our place of work. And then now we're October 1st to January, probably the end of
yeah,
January.
exactly. And you know what's the funny thing is throughout this whole process, like not once have they told you on TV how to get like a better immune system, how to eat right, what kind of foods you should eat to eat.
Thank you.
You know, exercise is a part of a healthy diet, right? Like if you don't exercise, like your body gets weak. And not only that, but what is the two things that haven't even shut down ever since this whole pandemic started? Liquor store and the weed store, which are
Yeah.
both owned by the government.
Yeah.
So it's just when you look at it that way, like there's a lot of things that doesn't make sense. But at the end of the day, it's above our pay grade. It's all about the government,
Yeah.
politics, and the economy. They don't. It's like Michael Jackson said in his song, man. They don't care about us. They don't. It's about their pockets.
I understand though that I was talking about this with Dawson on the podcast. Like, I understand though, like that they want to keep the businesses that bring in the most for the economy open. I get it. I mean, I saw a post literally 10 minutes ago, and it said, uh, they're canceling Thanksgiving, but Black Friday is not canceled. And that's all
Yeah,
you need to know right there. Like they don't
exactly.
want us getting together because
No,
but by the way, you can go fucking Best Buy and everywhere you want to go to buy your big ass TV on Black Friday, and it's going to be packed with people. We all know that.
spend your paycheck. Take a debt on your credit card. I don't mind as long as
Yeah.
you give me money. But when it comes to our mental health, it's like what? No, no gathering.
But you do make a great point, and it's one thing that being so invested already in my health, mental health, number one, but also physical health before the pandemic. So as soon as the pandemic hit for me, it was the first thing that I made sure was on point. Like especially for me, my family, my kids, like vitamin D, vitamin C, all the stuff that I knew and read and were kept hearing were good for your immune system. I made sure that every single day we go above and beyond. We eat well, but we also supplement just to make sure that if we do get sick, then our immune system is going to kick into gear and fight
Exactly.
this shit off. And that's all I can do. And you're right. It's frustrating when you see people, number one, you watch them on TV and they look like slobs.
Oh, they
Like they
do, man.
look like slobs. I don't want to be that guy that says it, but for me, I can't take anyone seriously that I know doesn't work out or do any
No,
sort of physical activity or doesn't even try to take care of himself. There's one part of me like, if you can't control how you treat your body, I don't understand how I'm going to give you my confidence and belief and how you're going to be able to govern this small society or this government. I don't know. It's a weird thing with me, but it's definitely something that bugs me.
but I agree. And to your extent, when you said that you were taking supplements, I just call my grandmother. I'm like, give me your old school ancestral medicine. Tell me what to drink. She's like onion, garlic, a lot of vitamin C. Just drink some
Yeah.
soup. I'm like, all right, I got you. Grandmothers, they can't go wrong with that.
They never go wrong, and it's all
Right.
good stuff though. You know, like
Of
the
course.
bone broth from the soup. Like take
Yes.
some
Yeah.
soup, some ginger, some garlic, some
Yes.
onions, all that
Exactly.
shit, and it's good for you. I mean, if one thing for us, I know for me at home is that we've been doing a lot more cooking. The fuck is my microphone? Sorry about that. I hear
Oh,
this clicking noise in my headphones, and I'm like, I hate this. All right. Yeah, it's like we you know we cook mostly at home and most of the time healthy, but it's like yeah. I wish the government would at least try to. And it's not like I haven't seen anything. I did see like one or two commercials from the government saying like I think it was about supplements or it's definitely about vitamin C. And I have seen commercials from vitamin companies be more upfront about what's needed right now. I have seen that, which is, I guess, is a good thing right now, you know? So at least there's that. But yeah, I would definitely like to see the government take charge in telling people, hey, how about you get off your fat ass and go do some exercise? Because you're
exactly.
diabetic, you're 200 pounds overweight, and you're the one complaining about wearing a mask. Uh,
Yeah.
like, please, like that does not drive with me. You know what I mean? So
But
I
when
don't
you
know,
have
man.
stuff like things like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Foodora, Skip the Dishes, trust me, and at times like these,
Business is a booming, baby.
of course, business is booming. I ain't complaining. During the summer, man, I do delivery for Uber Eats, so I'm not complaining. I had amazing weeks during the summer working for them, but still, just when you think about it, it's like it's so easy not to stay healthy, and it's so easy not to cook for yourself that at one point you have to make that decision. Either am I staying healthy or am I continue on this? Can we curse? Yeah, I hear you
Oh,
curse. Can
fuck yeah, man. Please, please.
either we stay healthy or we continue on this shit show like shit health. You know what I mean?
Man, let's switch gears a little bit. I don't want to talk about this
All
shit no
right,
more.
no, it's all good. It's good. Let's keep it positive. Let's keep
I'm
it
like,
positive.
fuck this shit.
Yo, by the way, before you start, I just want to say
Yo,
I love your background. I love your pictures.
yo,
I
huh?
see those chamber awards. I see the pictures. Austin right in the corner. Bob
Right
Marley.
there.
I'm like, yo,
Little
that's what
Stone Cold, Mike Tyson,
I
Macho
see
Man,
that.
Ali. I got my plaques there. I'm
I
working
see
on
that.
more stuff there. I'm gonna fill up. It's weird because I was talking to with Dawson about it. I was like, when I decided to relaunch this podcast, like I had a vision in my head. You know, I had this thing that I wanted to look like, not just like what I presented, but like how it looked on YouTube. I had all this idea in my head, and man, just I'm like, oh, let me try to figure something out. Maybe I'll be able to do it on my own. And I was able to do everything on my own. And I was like, man, this is exactly the vision I had in my head is exactly the product I'm putting out. I'm so happy about that. I'm like, man, that's one less thing about that I have to worry about every single episode is like, I just have to press record. Hopefully someone calls in and then we're all good to go. So
Yeah,
I'm
I'm blessed, man.
happy, man. Uh, Man, I was thinking about this. I went for a run before this, and I put on this Ultimate 8 T-shirt, and it's this
Oh,
shirt. This shirt that I've had it. It has the date on it. It's April, I believe, April 15th or April 25th, 2000. And oh shit, man,
16, 15.
it was yes, that's 2015. It was literally a week and a half I had been at torture that I had officially signed. It was like early April that I came into mid-April. I think I started at Chamber. And then the first week I was there was a show and it was the Ultimate 8. And I remember I was security at that show. And I believe it's the first time I met you. I believe because you
Oh,
had a match on that card. You remember that match? You and Justin. Remember?
oh, please don't talk about
Yeah, that was
that.
yeah, that head smash on the floor. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
I was
Justin.
I was working security on inside the gate, and I was right next to the ring the whole time, and I
Oh,
saw all the matches. And my first time seeing in like a show like this, I had been to like NCW shows like a few times with my son, but like being part of a show is the first
mhm.
time, and I was like a week in to torture, and that's the first time I met you, and I remember. I was like, man, this guy is like fucking full energy. I was like, this guy, like, I remember thinking to myself, like, because I know there was a lot of guys on that card, and it was all like really good guys. And I was like, man, like I was a week into training. I didn't even know what was what in wrestling or independent wrestling. It was so new to me. And it was my first experience like being in the locker room in the back and seeing
Mhm.
how the boys interacted. And from the get-go, me and you, I don't know, we developed this kind of like
Yes.
respect for each other. Like I respected right away when you started coming to class and I saw you come in, and every time you were there you were like fucking grinding, and you were one of those guys that couldn't, you pushed through everything, you pushed hard every single time, gave it everything, and you were disciplined. And I was like, all right, that's the kind of guy I want to, that's the shark that I want to hover with. And then I picked a few guys, and I'm like, I'm gonna hang with these guys, and we kind of formed this tight bond. Like we all
Yes.
know who we are, right? And I just love, man. I grew so quickly. Like 4 years, I've been doing pro wrestling, and for
Crazy.
the majority of these 4 years, me, you, and a few have just formed this tight bond, man. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I keep explaining to people, it's more than just friendship. There's this like call. I don't know how would you
It's
explain it?
it's a brotherhood, man. It's a
Yeah,
brotherhood.
that's it.
Brothers in arms, man. Brothers in arms. And I'll tell you something. I remember seeing you the first time at Chamber. And I'm like, yo, who's this guy? And I saw you had like your Hayabusa shorts. And I think Drew told me you had like a MMA background. So I'm like, all right, like he must be legit because he's been doing it for a while. And I remember I started calling you the general
Yeah,
because you were like new, but you were still taking things like you were being in charge of the other rookies, and you were like you had a pose, and you were acting some type of way that made you look like a veteran even though you weren't. So I'm like, yo, this guy's the general. Because when I wasn't around or Kevin wasn't around, and rookies started to act up, you would always bring them back and be like, yo, stay in your lane, do what you got to do.
yeah.
And but like you said, man, we just hit it off from there because it's that level of respect. Like when I walked in, because what might sound weird is like, we had a pecking order at the chamber, with the vets and the assistant coaches and the coaches, but we still respected each other. And as much as I tried to push you guys, when I saw you act the way you acted, it made me push myself even more because I'm like, I wasn't coasting, but to see a new guy come in and act the way he acts, I'm like, yo, I need to step up my game and make sure I let these young bloods know, even though you're older than me, I still had to let these young bloods know, how it works.
It's funny you say about the pecking order, because it's one of the things when I got into the to pro red just training that I realized, like I came from martial arts, so there's all there right there. There was like a respect. You respect the people you train with, the people that are better than you, and your coaches, and all everybody involved in making you better in martial arts. When I went to chamber, it was so similar the way
Mhm.
Drew ran his school, very proper. You start the class on time, you're not late, it's very structured, very disciplined. I'm like, I fucking love this, because it reminds me of being in a martial arts school. It's very similar. Warm up, then fucking work, and you really put in the
Yeah,
work. And that pecking order, like I said, like I realized right there that I was what, 35 at the time, 34, 35, that I was mostly that older than most of the guys there, but
yeah,
it didn't matter. Like I knew that I was at the bottom of the totem pole, and that I saw how guys that were hungry were like, yeah, I respect it, but I'm here to grab the top. I'm here
yeah,
to
exactly.
be the best. And that's one thing that I noticed right away. I'm like, okay, these guys aren't messing around. Like the few, that when I started, there was Mike that was a few months there, was Dom.
Yes.
And then like these are the two guys that I kind of went, oh, I'm gonna shift myself over here, and then I'm gonna kind of hang with these guys, because I saw Drew was putting, giving a lot of energy, and because he saw potential in these guys, and he kept kind of like shoving me in that direction. So I was like, okay, now I get it. But yeah, that pecking order was quickly established, and I'm like, I respect the fact that I'm not at the top, but I ain't gonna be here for very long because I don't enjoy it too much. Like I need to be. I don't need to be the guy in charge, but I do need to be part of the ensemble of guys that
Yes.
push them, make a difference for the younger guys, like. And I saw that from you guys like you and Kevin, and the guys that had been there for a while. Back then there was a lot more, but man, it was. There was a learning curve to the business of pro wrestling, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't know the business, like the business aspect of wrestling, you just think like, oh, I'm just gonna train, and because most of these people think that it's easy to be a pro wrestler, and that the training is only like you go there, you take a couple of bumps, and then like, you're good to go and you can wrestle. But there's a whole process behind it. It's like you said, the business, the nature of the business. That's when things get complicated. But like that's like I said, from the get go, man, you were just taking everything in charge. And like you said, you were not gonna let like you didn't want to stay at the bottom of the totem pole for long. And I got that vibe from you. That's why I'm like, I fuck with this guy. I'm gonna roll with it because that's how I was as well.
I saw also the very few that understood that it was a lot, it was more than just the wrestling part that was important. Let me try to explain. Like it was more about that Saturday night, what I was going to do in that ring for that 10 to 12 minutes. It was everything that went in to making sure that on that Saturday or Friday night or Sunday, then when you perform and you're in your match, that you represent that emblem that's on your chest, number one, but that you're professional in every single way, from the moment you walk into that door to the moment you meet your opponent, to the match, to after the match, to how you comport, like all those things. I saw all those things and I'm like, okay, I can fuck with this, because this, to me, again, it was very similar to martial arts. And it again, it was different for me because I feel like a lot of people come into pro wrestling with an expectation. I had zero expectation, but I also had zero knowledge about the business. All I knew about wrestling was basically WWE. I knew there was like a company in Japan that was pretty big, but I didn't know the ins. I knew what I saw on TV for the most part. And I'd been a fan of that since I was 7 years old. And throughout my whole life, that's all I knew. I knew that it was quote unquote, predetermined. All that of course I knew that, but that's where it stopped. Like I was like, well, I kind of imagined how it worked, and then when I got in a locker room for the first time, or even when I started working, I was like, oh, this is like, through the 8 months before I had my first match, I remember learning all those small, intricate details about professional wrestling, about the business and how you do well in the business of professional wrestling. You have to do all these small things, and you have to cultivate these small habits. Uh, and I was like, ooh, that's new for me, because even though I thought physically I was ready for this, it's like, oh, you're gonna learn from pro wrestling your whole life. You're never gonna top off and go, I know everything. There's always something new to learn, and that's one big part of pro wrestling that I enjoy.
I like what you're saying because what people don't necessarily understand or know is that pro wrestling is like, I would say 80% psychological. It's not even about the physicality of it. It's the psychology. When you look at all our favorite wrestlers, all the greatest matches, yes, it was a physical contest, but beyond that, what was the thing that captivated us the most? It was the storytelling, and it was how the battle developed throughout that whole match with the storytelling. It's good versus bad, and also like a roller coaster. You know what I mean? It's exactly like a superhero movie. Whenever you watch the new Spider-Man, Spider-Man comes up, he starts kicking ass, he gets praises, shaking hands, kissing babies, meets the villain, gets knocked down, then he tries again, gets knocked down again, then he's at the bottom of the hole, doesn't know if he can come back, finally finds the strength and comes back, turns things around. But that's the same thing with wrestling. It's psychology. Yes, we all enjoy the high spots. We all enjoy the flashy moves. But at the end of the day, are we gonna remember your match? And let's be honest, when you watch wrestling, you don't remember the match because of the moves. You remember the match because of the way it made you feel.
Yeah.
And that's something that these young kids that start wrestling or want to get into wrestling, well, not even these young kids, even in the scene right now, it's so popular being indie, 1,000 super kicks in a match, having 10 spots outside of the ring. But as far as your psychology goes, there isn't. And there's a reason why the top dogs are the top dogs, and there is a reason why WWE is making most of the money,
Mm-hmm.
because they understood that entertainment slash psychology factor way before everybody else did. And I'm like, you know what? Let's put it on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And that's why I like what you're saying, because like you said, wrestling, it's all in here. If you don't have that wrestling psychology and that wrestling knowledge, you can be the biggest, strongest, most athletic guy in the world. You can do all these spots. They're not. They can only take you so far. But as soon as you use this and you use your psychology, it will take your game to that next level.
I always go like, sometimes I'd build matches and I'd be like, why do you want to do that? Like, why do this? And a lot of times guys would be like, I don't know, because it's a
Yes.
move. I'm like, yeah, but why are you doing it? There has to be a reason for doing your thing. Because if there's no reason, then there's no line, there's no storyline. Because you're just putting moves together, then letting me do moves, and then you do moves, and then it's the in between the lines. Like it's 12 minutes of me being able to tell you a story from something. You meet two guys, you go, I have no idea what's the background of these two guys together, and then I have 10 minutes to show you, here's the story that I'm going to tell you. And then if at the end you could remember, again, like you said, how it made you feel. Not only, like, a lot of times I feel like people would be like, man, that guy did this move, it was the craziest shit. Then I go, who won the match? I don't know, I just remember that fucking move.
Exactly.
I'm,
Exactly.
well, I'm like, then if you don't know who won, then it kind of defeats the purpose of pro wrestling as a whole. Like, you're just seeing athletes perform moves, and of course it's flashy and it's like, wow. Like, I react the same ways too when I see like crazy shit. But I react more now as a worker when I see the little intricate that nobody else notices, and I'm
Yes.
like, yo, what he did there? Do you see what he
Yeah.
did? And then I tell
Yes.
my wife, I'm like, look, rewind. She's like, I don't see it. I'm like, oh, come on. And
Yeah. She's like, I was on my phone and you're bothering me for this? Like, come on.
she's like, you're taking time away from my Candy Crush.
No, but let me. I'll give you this example, and I always say this when I train the new kids at the chamber, because everybody wants the spots and this and that, but you always forget what got you hooked into wrestling. And I always give this example of Austin versus The Rock. There was never any high spots within that feud or those matches. But you remember those matches and you remember that storyline so well because it's how it was built. If you look at The Rock, whenever he would walk inside the ring, he would stand on the turnbuckle and smell the air. And just by doing that, everybody would take their cameras, no cell phones, because back then we didn't have that. Would
Yeah.
take their cameras and you will see all the flashes, people taking pictures. And then you would wait for the other second moment that would be like, then you take my camera again. It wasn't the people's elbow, it wasn't the rock bottom, nor the spine buster. It was just him taking off the elbow pad. His two most important moment in the wrestling match were not even his wrestling moves. It was walking in, going to the turnbuckle, sniff air. You would take a picture and see who would catch it. None of that was wrestling related. It wasn't match related.
You're freezing up here. I can't
So
see you.
yeah,
Sorry.
and the same thing goes for Austin.
Yeah. Can you still hear me? You're freezing up a bit.
Yeah, I think. Wait, let me see if I can go somewhere else because my internet connection is not stable.
Oh
Wait,
yeah.
let me see if I can.
But I think you do. It's a really good point. The fact that it's not even it's not even a wrestling move. He takes off his elbow pad, and then everybody knows from that point on, they either two things is going to happen. He's either going to land at people's elbow, or the other guy's going to come up and cut him off, and then but at the end, the moment when he removes that, at a certain point in the next 2 to 3 minutes at least, he's gonna land that people's elbow, and everybody is expecting it now. It's like, holy shit, we're at that point. Yeah, it's but people, I've seen people that wrestle and that don't understand those little intricacy, right?
But you know what they don't understand? It's either two things. First is either they haven't been educated in that aspect of wrestling or never took the time to educate themselves. And two is because a lot of guys that work or girls, a lot of people that wrestle nowadays are selfish. You wrestle for yourself, but
Yeah.
you're not supposed to wrestle for yourself. You wrestle for the crowd because they're the ones who's gonna buy. They're gonna buy tickets, probably buy your merch, and your revenue comes from the fans. So by you being selfish makes you not understand wrestling psychology as much as you should.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed, I don't watch a lot of wrestling since the pandemic, especially. I don't know if you've caught like Raw or SmackDown. They have this new like Thunderdome. It's weird. It's definitely weird not
It
having
is.
fans there, but at least you have this sound. At least you have this reaction. At least you hear certain things. But one thing that WWE has been really good at adapting is they're kind of embracing this new reality for them right now with
Hmm.
no fans. They make it look like a Thunderdome. It looks like it's from a movie from like a Mad
Yes.
Max, right? You
Yes.
also, I think that one thing people need to realize is that WWE, their job right now, they're basically building their own superheroes.
Hmm.
The good guys, there's good guys and bad guys, but they put them like if you look at how they're building Roman Reigns and if you look at how they're building Braun Strowman, like Braun Strowman's this big monster now. They dress him differently, like they build them up to be this. And guys are, I think the trick is that the guys are buying in to the gimmick. They're like, okay, this is your gimmick is not just you're a big strong guy. You're picture yourself as a evil as a villain in a comic book, and your sole purpose is to be on top or to be the guy in charge, and then I think the more the guys buy into that, the more they're able to be creative with what they do in the ring. And when these two giants clash in the ring, it's more than just two big guys punching each other. You really see a good guy, mostly underdog, and then you see this big bad villain, and they really sell that product, that storyline, that thing really, really well. I think that that's one thing they're able to adjust because they have the money to with all the different camera angles and with all the
Yes.
others, with all the movie shit, they're able to put behind it. It's a bit harder. I have seen independent shows, guys on the wrestling where there's zero fans, and as much as I want to enjoy the match, when all you hear is the spots being called
Yes.
and they're basically just wrestling and talking to each other and trying to like make it look like it's a fight and there's a disagreement. It doesn't work because there's no fan that's behind there going, you're right or you're wrong, boo or yay. It's like, man, it's hard to watch, and I can only imagine it's hard to work that way.
Of course, it must be, and it must be hard. And like you said, I haven't watched WWE in a while. I honestly like their product is not something that interests me anymore. But I've watched a couple of Raws for the past few months. I also watched Survivor Series last
Mm-hmm.
Sunday. And one thing I do not like though about this whole Thunderdome thing is the fake fan noise.
Yeah.
That for me is you're not making it legit anymore. You're not. And I've actually read people online saying that when you're like, when you're in the Thunderdome and you're on screen, there's
Mm-hmm.
actually somebody from the WWE that tries to tell you how to react. So
No.
that's what I read. So it's not even
Wow.
a real live fan reaction. It's more like, okay, well, you have to look happy or look surprised or act this way. Is it real? I don't know. It's what people say online, right? So it has to be confirmed. But that's what I've heard. And I think that takes away a lot. And one thing that, when you said you buy in more into the characters right now is because I feel like right now they have to work even harder
Oh yeah.
to make sure that they're believable because there is no fan. And one thing about not having fans that might make it easier is that, usually when you work on Raw or SmackDown or even the pay per views, you work for TV.
Yeah.
So your main focus is the hard cam. But now there is no fans around. So they're not gonna chant a boring. They're not gonna be not involved because they're not there. So you can really focus on working the camera, which I think changes the aspect of the game. But it's still not the same experience. Like you said, even people like even feds on the industry, let's talk about AEW. they're not adapting properly. Their product is not going the right way, and they took a hit more than WWE did with this whole COVID thing. You know, even though they try to keep it like COVID friendly and working it
Yeah.
online. You know,
I find that AEW at the beginning of this, when there was no fans, when before WWE figured it out there, they
yes,
were doing way better. The
of course,
cameras were down to a minimum. You had 1, 2 camera angles, and you had more of that indie scene feeling when you were watching it, and you were kind of not so distracted that there's nobody around. Plus, they allowed a lot of the wrestlers early on to be around the ring, so at least you have some back and forth.
yes,
Uh, Action between fans, quote unquote, and the wrestlers. But as soon as WWE had the money and they went like, we're gonna figure this out, they probably hired a bunch of people, and then they're like, boom, this is our new product. Again, it's not for everybody, but I think that if you're not gonna have any fans, it's this is how it's going to have to be. Like, one thing you did say about the fake noise and the fake fan reaction, and I really hope, like, I want to believe it's not true, but if there's also a part of me that goes, yeah, I could see that happening. They want to control the narrative of how the match needs to go. There needs to be boos here. We're going to encourage people to boo and blah blah blah. One thing that I said to my wife early on, I said, the problem that I see with this fake noise is that I notice it. I know that it doesn't sound real, like, because I'm number one, I'm a wrestler. I've been in a ring. I know what real reactions are. So even though you might go, well, it's just digital, it's because there's a delay sometimes in between people. People are mostly watching this. They're not reacting. Like, if I watched it on Zoom, even if there's a big one, I might go, oh shit, but I'm not gonna scream because I know I'm at home,
exactly.
right? The thing that I'm afraid of is that young people watching wrestling right now, that they're going to get used to this fake noise, to this cartoonish noise. And for them, if this keeps going in 5 years, they're going to have forgotten what real reactions are. And people are going to be used. No, that's wrestling now. We
Yeah,
all knew wrestling was already quote unquote fake. So the noise is fake. So what? It's like I'm watching live cartoons. It's just live
exactly.
people telling me a story. It's like if I'm watching anime, or like like Naruto, or what it is. Like, it's like two guys battling, but it's real people, and there's music, and there's the flashy lights, and I'm good with the noise. I'm afraid that people are going to go, either I give up the product, or I just buy into the product. And I think at the end of the day, people love wrestling so much that they're just going to end up buying into whatever they're
Mhm.
selling, and people are just going to stop complaining after a while, and then they're just going to accept the product, and it's going to be like, oh yeah, we never went back to normal wrestling anymore. Then so I'm like, eesh, like, is that really what we have to look forward to? Is this as part of as a product? Because to me, it's not pro wrestling.
I hope not, because honestly, like you said, it feels like a bad Disney sitcom. You know, when
Yeah.
you have those fake lapses just play and all that stuff, it really does feel like a bad Disney sitcom.
I mean, it's like they're recording a sitcom, and there's a laugh track, and then there's a big
Exactly.
sign says
But
applaud, 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 laugh, laugh, laugh. Like, I'm like, man, am I at the Jimmy Fallon show, or fuck am I at a pro wrestling show? Like, I don't get it. It's I look, who am I to know? They make millions of billions of dollars. They're a
exactly,
big
exactly.
industry. They know better than we do. So I'm like, well, they do you. Is just I don't all necessarily agree with it. At least we get to watch wrestling if we are that starved for the product. So I hate it because I see a lot of people struggling, I think,
Hmm.
to deal with the fact that there's no wrestling. And I think a lot of people just gave up and went like, wrestling is not part of my life anymore. I think you're going to see a lot of that when wrestling comes back to normal. You're going to see a lot of guys not go back to it. You think that's going to happen, or you think people are going to be so starved for it, they're going to be like, everybody's going to come back to it?
Are you talking about the fans or like the
No, I'm
work
talking about the
wrestlers?
workers for the
Okay.
independent scene, especially like if I'm talking like not globally. I'm sure the big guys, big names, they still wrestle, they still figure it out. But I think like the guys that were just doing it and already before this, they were like, man, I'm just doing this for fun, or they get used to being at home with the family and with the
Right,
kids
right.
and this and that. I'm perfect example. Like I'm like, man, this is good life right now. Being able to spend with my like normally weekends for me, it's like I'll see you on Sunday, if I'm fucking banged up, so I'm not
And
happy
that's
to
what
be
you
around.
said. You're banged up afterwards. I think that's the biggest question is how happy are you right now not being banged up? You know what I mean? Like a lot of us, we wrestle still injured or hurt,
Yeah,
and we do that on a weekly basis. But a lot of the guys right now are actually not only enjoying time with their families, but they're not hurt anymore.
yeah,
You had a bad hip, bad leg, bad whatever the case may be, you're not hurt anymore. So do you really want to go back to that? And I think being in this whole COVID sucks and everything, but there's also a good to it. There's always a good side and a bad side. And the fact that we are closer now and we spend more time with the family, with the kids and the wives and the husbands and all that stuff, it makes you think about it again. Like it gives you a different perspective because before people were like, yo, wrestling, wrestling, wrestling. But what I used to say at the chamber with the new guys is there is more to life than your passion, whether that be wrestling or any other sports or your job or your career or like school. There's more to life than just that. There is also life. You have to be able to enjoy and live life. And for a lot of guys that used to wrestle, especially during the weekend, they would enjoy life, but without the people that they love. And now it's like you said, you're at home during the weekends. You spend more time with your wife and your kids. And do you really want to go back to being banged up on the weekends and not spending time with them? And that's that. I think a lot of people are actually thinking about that right now. And maybe some workers, some girls got pregnant. Maybe others are going to become a father. Like there's a lot of things that happen within this past year. So you might see a change in the indie scene as far as Montreal or Quebec goes. In my opinion, you might see a change in the scene.
I agree, and I also think that when things get restarted, there's gonna be less opportunities. Like there's not gonna be fucking 100 promotions ready
Nope.
to going out and fucking bang bang. They were back to business. It's gonna be, oh yeah, but we're only allowed 50 people, so I can't afford to run a show. So we're gonna wait a few weeks, a few months before when they get back to allowing more people. So then you're gonna go, well, oh man, if there's less promotion with less shows, then you get less wrestlers being able to work, right? And it's the cream rises to the top, right? You're gonna have the good workers that get all those spots. But also, I do agree, and it's something, and I've said many times. I had a conversation with Steve Boutet from NSPW, and it was the same thing. It was a lot of guys are loving the this life at home, like, and I'm one of those. It's weird because I went through all the shit that I could go through during this pandemic. I got injured right before the pandemic hit with a massive concussion. I was
Yes, I
out.
remember.
I was out 3 months minimum, no matter what. That I didn't really tell anybody, but that I it was there was a minimum there of like probably not, you're not wrestling for the rest of the season of the till June, and probably it'd be better off if you wait till September. Like I was not planning on coming back before September. I had already reserved myself. I had already disconnected almost because I needed that time to heal my head and all the things I was going through. Pandemic hit, and then I slowly began working out again and again. But then it was like, oh yeah, I'm still injured. I'm still injured. And slowly I got better and I got better. And then boom, oh, I'm good to go now. And then I just became a monster. I trained like a monster. I became in a great shape again. And I didn't have to deal with the injuries. And then I went, man, I feel so good. My body's recovering itself. I had injuries, little things I didn't even know I had. Like I remember going to see Jade, and she's like, you have so much damage you don't even know. I'm like, I don't eat, everything hurts every morning. I'm like, there's no fluffer for me. I go out, I grind, it hurts. I wake up, it hurts. Fuck it, I go again. Like there is no filter for me. There is no give. But when I didn't do it, I went, oh my God, like I feel so much better. And then I'm go, you know what? I think it's time for me to accept the fact that I might need to move forward with doing something else in my life, or at least maybe, removing myself from the. And I thought about that was it for me. I really did. I said it to a few guys. I think I said it to you. I said it to my wife. I said, I think I'm pretty much done with wrestling. I think I am. And I was really convinced of that until like a week ago. I woke up and I'm like, God
That
damn, what the
it's
fuck? Ugh. Anybody
is
got
it
something
the
about wrestling? Oh,
yeah.
like I it was a little bit of seeing Mike wrestling. That was one
That's
thing. He
super
sent me one
kick.
of his match as super kick. And I
Yes.
was like, then I'm recording like on RDS there. They have wrestling because I wanted to see Mike's matches. And then started watching wrestling a little bit more. I started watching Raw with my son a bit more. I started watching SmackDown. And then I started
And then
paying
you
attention
start
to
doing
and then I
this.
went, oh yeah, that looks like fun, man. Ooh, man. And I was like, all right, but my body feels great, right? I've recovered from everything I put my body through. Like I'm over the. I ran a marathon, right, like a month ago, and
Oh
that.
yeah. By the way, just by the way, mad props, man. Like
Uh,
I know I sent you a private message, but yo, mad props. I respect that. You don't understand like how. First things first, people prepare like within a full year to get ready for that marathon. You
yeah.
did it in a month.
Mm.
You're
I
crazy, but I
don't
respect that.
I
I love
don't recommend it, but yes, I
that.
honestly though it's uh the one part why I did it was because number one, I said at the beginning of the year that I wanted to do it before I turned 40, and 2020 happened, and then I was like, oh shit, I said I was going to do it. And then I was turning 40, and I was like a month and a half away from turning 40. And that started grinding. Like people, especially men, they don't want to admit there like sometimes, but turning 40 is not a massive deal for many. And it wasn't that big of a deal for me, but it was a deal. It's a significant part of my life. Like, okay, I'm 40, it's a number, but I was like, I said I was going to do this. I'm just going to do it. And I'm like, you know
Start
what?
fresh.
I'm crazy enough to do this in 30 days. And then I Googled and I found a guy that did it. And I was like, oh, if he did it, I'm fucking doing this. And I did it. And I was like, every time I tell people about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I ran a marathon. I trained like 30 days. And to me, it was like, I probably like, they were like, wait a minute, 30 days? Yeah. Like, are you out of your mind? I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, do you understand how hard that is? I'm like, yeah, it was pretty hard. Oh, well. Not, what's the craziest thing? I didn't even realize I ran so much that I started looking back at it. Like on the Sunday, I ran the marathon. The Saturday before, I ran a half marathon. And then the Saturday before that, I ran 18 kilometers, so just below a half marathon. And if I look throughout all the weeks, I basically ran a marathon every week or more.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Right? Just training for this thing. There's no purpose, by the way. Like I started off with this schedule that this guy had put online, like train for a marathon in 30 days. And he had every day, like everything he did. I started with that plan. 6 days in, I was like, fuck this plan. I'm just going to run for 30 days and ramp it up every week, ramp it up, every week, ramp it up. And then on the 18th of October, I'm just going to put my fucking shoes. I'm going to run 42.2 kilometers. And then that's going to be it. And then it's going to be like, it's funny because the minute I accomplished it, I'm like, all right, what's next? My wife was like already shaking her head. She's like, I know you're going to come up with some crazy ass shit after. I'm like, yeah, because it's like a drug. Like not
Yes.
just the part of the accomplishment, but I learned so much about myself in those 30 days. Like serious, like a lot of demons went hush during those 30 days. And I realized that, yeah, like I told Drew about this. I said, so I just needed to remind myself that I was a bad motherfucker. I know it sounds like arrogant to say it, but fuck it. Like I needed to remind myself like that I was a bad motherfucker. And that's what I
No, but
did.
it's not even arrogant, man. You gotta give credit where credit is due, and sometimes you have to remind yourself. Not
Yeah.
sometimes. You always have to remind yourself how much of a badass you are. Because if you don't do it, who's gonna do it for you? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No, man, you are. You're a bad motherfucker, man. I vouch for that. I vouch for
Well, thank you, sir. Um,
that.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about, still related to wrestling, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Is because I have a lot of thinking time, and I like to get high sometimes and think about life and shit. And I not just think about life, but I think about the. Lately, I've been thinking about like do I why do I gravitate towards this? So I try to view people that I look at wrestlers because I'm part of the business, and I find pro wrestling, not just pro wrestling, but I find pro wrestlers so they're so intriguing. They're so different, each and every one of them, but there's something, we all have something in common, and I'm trying to figure out what that that is. Like, what, in your opinion, like you've been in the ring, you're a professional wrestler. What is it about you that made you into a professional wrestler? Is there something you can pinpoint to in your life? Either it's living your life or different way, like that you can go, this is one of the reasons why I'm a professional wrestler. Do you think you can pinpoint to one thing?
I think it comes down to my dad. Cause when my dad was a kid, he actually wanted to become a pro wrestler, and back then, it wasn't. Well, my dad's from Guatemala, so that was out of the question. Like my great grandmother would never let my dad be a wrestler. It's like, no, you're gonna be either like a pastor or you're gonna go to the military, but you are not gonna be a pro wrestler. And actually, my dad was getting enrolled into the Catholic school to become a pastor up until he came here with my grandmother. But I think it's my dad. Like he gave me that love for pro wrestling, and I feel like I am living his dream. That's how I feel. That's one of the main reasons why I actually wanted to get back into wrestling, because I made a promise to my dad that I still haven't accomplished. I'm like, I can't quit now because there's still something. But to answer your question, I think is that because when I was a kid, the first thing I remember seeing on TV was wrestling. I would always watch it as a kid with my dad, and that's where I got the itch. I cannot say what made me want to become a wrestler, but just seeing wrestling every week was like, I want to be like that. And from the get go, I knew that I wanted to be a wrestler. You know, when you used to go to elementary school and they would tell you to write down what you want to be when you're gonna be
Yeah,
older,
yeah,
like ton album de finissant sixième année, you like to write shit down, right? I remember I wrote I was gonna be a world champion and that I was gonna marry the most beautiful woman in the world. And when I wrote that, I was actually thinking about Trish Stratus because she was like my. So
yo, she
in my
was
mind,
hot.
I'm like, so in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna find the future Trish Stratus and marry her and be like a wrestling power couple, whatever the case may be. That was just childhood nonsense, right? But ever since I'm a kid, my answer has always been the same. It's like, what do you want to be when you get older? A wrestler. It's like, no, 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 but for real, what do you want to be? I want to be a wrestler. And I never understood why people try to like to take me away from that path. But I was always my answer. But there's no moment that actually made me be like, yo, this is what I want to do.
I'm like you. I don't think there's a moment, but for me, it was weird because I remember I was 7 years old the first time I discovered pro wrestling. And I can remember renting WrestleMania 3 in a VHS and bringing it home because I had seen some wrestling on Saturday. One night I stayed up late. My mom had people over at my grandma's. I grew up at my grandma's house. And I was in the living room trying to sleep on the couch. And I remember waking up at like 11:30, and it was like, I think back then it was like, oh, it was the 80s. It was like 87, 80, I forget. They had like Saturday night main event or some shit like that. So you had like an hour from 11 to 12. Where I lived, it was like late at night. I didn't even know. I'm like, what is this? I remember it came on after like hockey. I fell asleep to a hockey game or something, and then I woke up to this thing. I'm like, oh, wow. And I'm like, oh, I remember every time I go to rent movies on the weekend, because on the weekend, my mom would take me to the video store and I would rent not only the VHS tapes, but I would rent the machine because we didn't own a VCR. So I would rent the
Oh,
VCR and I would rent like 3 or 4 movies. And that was my weekend. I remember the following weekend, I went in And I remember there was a section just wrestling. There was like a wall of just wrestling tapes. I'm like, that's what I saw on TV. And I remember I picked the first one that was WrestleMania 3. I brought it home and I remember watching it. And I remember the match was Macho Man and Steamboat. That was
Yes.
the match.
Amazing match.
Because I was like, oh shit, like this is not just two giants pummeling each other. There's actually like wrestling and like I'm like, wow, I'm invested. Like they did such a good job telling a story. I didn't even know what I was watching, but I didn't give a fuck. I was like, I love this. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm gonna do this when I grew up. And I was obsessed with wrestling. I would wrestle in my bedroom. I would break my bed. My grandma would yell at me. Like after a while, she wouldn't even fix the bed anymore. She's like, you're going to fucking sleep on this broken bed because me and your grandfather are tired of fixing that shit.
Sleeping on the floor, get out.
Yeah. Like pull the mattress away. I would jump. Like I was obsessed up to when I was a teenager. It dawned on me that I wasn't watching wrestlers anymore. I was just watching superstars on TV. When the whole WCW versus WWE war was going on, they were so on TV all the time that when I would turn it on, I would see the fans go crazy. Remember back then, the fans were just like, it was so invested, millions of people would watch it every week. And I remember going, oh, like I can't attain that. Like, look at these are like movie stars. It's like I'm watching movie stars. I'm like, okay, forget it. And I kind of like, I enjoyed the product, but it kind of went like, I'm growing up. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And then midway through my 20s, I just said, fuck this shit. And then I went on this mixed martial arts path that led me to pro wrestling. And I remember going like, I remember after my first match, I'm like, I cannot believe that something that I dreamed about when I was 7 years old, when I was looking up at the TV and going, I'm going to do that one day. And I did that thing. I could not, it's one of the first time I went, this is a big fucking deal in something that I had a dream and I accomplished that dream. It was really a dream. Like it wasn't a goal. It was a dream about from a 7-year-old boy. And I do that thing now. I'm that thing that I wanted to be when I was 7. And I will never forget that feeling. I will never, ever forget that feeling. But it wasn't anything like you in particular. I think I was just kind of predisposed throughout everything I've lived through in my life to be drawn to this energy, Dawson said we're all like attention whores. Like we all seek the attention of the crowd. Yeah. Like you need to be to a certain extent an attention whore just because those are the ones that are good. They seek the attention and they figure out how to get that attention. And the people that are good at making the crowd basically I could do anything. I can make you boo. I can make you cheer. I can make you laugh. I can make you cry. Those are the best guys. They're not necessarily the most physical, the most talented, but the guys that are able to play with your emotions. And I could, again, I don't know what it is, but I think I lived a life where I got to a point where the chip on my shoulder and all that was just a recipe for like, yeah, you could do pretty well in the business of professional wrestling. And then I was lucky enough to walk into torture one day and then it became part of my life until now,
But I have a question for you because I know how I felt. So I wanna know your answer. How did you feel after that first match? Like when you finished your first match, what was going through your mind and like the emotions and all that stuff?
I remember the first thing that I remember I got in the back after everybody was like, good match, congratulations, blah, 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 blah. I remember I left, I went to the bathroom by myself after I just stopped and I just needed to unwind. And I remember the first thought in my head was like, man, I hope I did good. Like meaning like, I hope that I'm able to at least watch the match and not cringe too much. I didn't understand yet that it's you're not going to be good, like amazing right away, that you're not going to be good a year down the road. You're not going to be great 5 years. It's such a slow, like if you really want to be good at pro wrestling, like you got to do it a lot and you got to do it for a long time because it's some for some people it comes easier, but for most it's like there's a lot of knowledge you need to learn. I remember thinking that, but I also remember being number one. I was happy. I was happy, but it was weird because I would see people come up to me, like my wife, like, oh my God, congratulations. I had like 20 people that came to see me for my first match. So I remember the feeling of how I made them feel. They were so proud of me. And I was like, man, I felt good. I didn't let them down. You know what I mean? Like I'd go see my friends. I'm like, listen, like if I did shit, just tell me, be honest with me, you know, and I don't fuck around with me. They're like, no, man, it wasn't bad. It was good. And I remember that feeling. And then I remember, oh, well, that's just my first match. Like,
Mhm.
this is a new adventure for me. Like, I kind of, by
Keep on
then, I
going.
kind of realized that, oh, wait a minute. Like, I have to do this every weekend now. Like, if I need to get good at this, though, like, I can't just be like, all right, I'll see you in 3 months and I'll see what I can do now. It's not like MMA. Like, MMA, you fight, you win or you lose. You ain't fighting again for weeks, if not months. And an amateur, it could be years. Like I went years between my fights sometimes, right? Because it just doesn't happen, injuries and shit. So for me, like the pace that the minute I had my match, and then after that, it was like, hey, can you wrestle here? Do you want to wrestle here? Can I wrestle here? I was like, holy shit. I was thrown in so fast that I didn't even have time to think about where I was going with this or what I really was doing. Like for the longest part, for me, it was just like accomplishing a dream. I realized a dream, and then I was like, what's now? That dream became work. It became, okay, let's see where I can take this now. And I celebrated, but it was very short lived because I knew that I was just going to have to do it again and then redo it again and do it better and do it better and do it better. I had that, that wherewithal to kind of realize that, but it felt good after my match. I felt accomplished, and I was like, all right, I did this. I'm able to do this. Now I need to get better at it. And I was confident that by the performance I had put forward in that match, that I was going to be able to get better at this.
That's cool.
How did you feel after your match, your first match?
Oh wow, I couldn't sleep.
For real?
Yeah, and I was younger though. I was 19 when I had my first match. 19, no, 19 or 20. I was on my way of turning, like I was on the verge of turning 20, and I couldn't sleep the day before. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep and I didn't eat. I couldn't eat throughout the whole day. I was just so nervous because it was unreal. And at the same, like I knew it was happening, but at the same time I didn't believe it. And I got to the venue at like 2, 3 p.m. Started getting ready. I had like my whole family there. And like, it was like I think 30, 40 people. Just everybody was there. And when the show started, I started getting even more nervous. But still, I still wasn't believing it. I'm like, this is not happening. I'm not gonna go out there and wrestle. This is not happening. This is all a dream. I'm gonna wake up eventually, or someone's gonna be like, you're not going out. And before my match, I started sweating. I'm like, okay, this is happening. Like this is really happening. I can't go back, and there is no going back. And then I was the face, right? I was the good guy. So the bad guy went out first, and then I go out. And while my opponent was doing his entrance, my heart was beating and palm sweating, kind of like that 8 Mile thing, puking. I swear, I felt like I needed to puke, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't. It's too late now. And as soon as that music hits and I walk through those curtains, everything just vanished. Everything just vanished. My anxiety, my stress, my need to puke, everything just vanished. And at that moment, I'm like, this is where I belong. As I was walking and looking at my family and looking at the crowd and just interacting with them, I told myself, this is where I belong. Had the match, amazing. Like you said, your first match is never good,
Yeah.
never good. But just the fact that I accomplished it, because throughout my whole life, people were making fun of me because I wanted to be a wrestler, and nobody really believed in me. Even my mom to an extent, she's like, "You're not gonna do it." And just knowing that I proved everybody wrong made me feel so good because I'm like, throughout this whole time, I'm the only reason I never accomplished it before. Now I did it. And I remember I had a childhood friend of mine. He used to work at McDonald's. And after my match, I went at his McDonald's because he was working a night shift. And we just started talking. And I'm like, yo, this is unreal. This is unreal. He's like, let me treat you to a Big Mac or something. And I was just talking, like chilling until like 1, 2 a.m. until I got home. Because I was so high on adrenaline that I just couldn't think properly. Like I couldn't think straight. And when I got home, I laid on my bed, and I kid you not, I laid on my bed until like 4 a.m. with a smile all the way up to here, without saying a word, just looking at the roof, and I'm like, I did it. Just sitting down, smiling, I'm like, I did it. That's how I live.
That's amazing feeling though, right? Like that. It's weird though. I go back to that. You said something where you couldn't eat the whole match, right? I did that every single time I wrestled. Every single time for the 4 year I wrestled. If I wrestled on Saturday, I barely eat that Saturday.
Yep, of course.
Like for me, like I'm so like amped up in my head. Like there's so much like anxiety and all that shit going around. Like when I'm so intense sometimes. I like to try to calm it down, right? But like for me, if I wrestle on Saturday, it would start on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I'd start thinking about the match, thinking about my opponent, looking at tape if it's available on YouTube of matches of who I'm facing, so I can get an idea of what he's doing, his move set, things like this. I come up with ideas, just general, what kind of story I'm going to tell. Friday comes around, like I'm working, I'm doing all my stuff I'm supposed to do, but in my head, I'm thinking about wrestling. I'm thinking about wrestling. What am I going to do? Friday night, the whole time I'm in bed, trying to fall asleep, I'm thinking. I have my phone every 5 seconds. I'm like, oh no, here's one thing. And then I write down stuff that I'm thinking about. Then when Saturday comes around, it's always the same ritual. I get up, I know I barely eat. I eat a breakfast, but not too big, not,
Mm-hmm.
and then for the rest of the day, I barely eat anything. I'm nervous. There's nervous energy, but I have to keep it in check. I have to keep it in check. That's one thing I learned from martial arts. Like if you blow your wad, if you let that adrenaline like spike and then drop and spike and drop, by the time I got there that night, I'd be dead. I couldn't do anything. It happened 3 amateur fights. It happened all 3 times where I could not control my emotions. By the time I walked through the ropes, I couldn't even feel my legs. They were so heavy. Like the adrenaline dumps. So I took that in consideration for every time I have a match. Like, and I can't eat. It's like, I am not happy until my match is done. I am not pleasant to be around on Saturdays when I'm wrestling, except if it's a really big match. Like if I'm wrestling like guys that I know, like if I'm wrestling Turnbull, Justin, if I'd be wrestling you, if I'm wrestling guys that I'm like I'm not worried. But if I'm going 3 hours to Drummondville or Shawinigan and I have no idea who I'm wrestling, or I'm wrestling someone I've never wrestled before, there's this energy where I'm like, and also like, I want to get there and I also want to keep it together. Like, I don't want to make it look like I'm fucking spazzed out, but in my head, I'm spazzing out like, hey, like I'm trying to keep it together. And for the most part, I've been able to do that, right? Like I've had matches and I've been able to keep it together, but I know that by the time my match is finished, then then I want to talk to everybody.
Yes.
Then I want people to come around and sit, and I'm so relaxed. And it's messed up because I noticed it after I stopped wrestling. When I got injured and then the pandemic hit, it took me, I would say weeks, but maybe months before my energy, like I would start getting ramped up on Friday. I'd have this nervous energy because in my head, I was wrestling the next day, but I wasn't. I remember I woke up from bed one day. I couldn't fall asleep, and I got up and I yelled at myself. I'm like, dude, you're not wrestling this Saturday. Just stop just thinking.
And
then my brain went, oh yeah, you're not wrestling. And then I just calmed down, fell asleep. And then I remember that Friday, I was like, okay, now I'm aware My body is starting to be aware that it doesn't have to be turned up to 11 all the time. Like you see me in the ring, like there's an intensity to me that I have to bring forward every single time because it's who I am in real life. And then I understand that when I get in the ring, if I'm going to sell tickets, I need to ramp that shit up to 14. Like I'm not 11, not 12, 14, 15, 16, like fucking ramp it up. That's who you are. Just ramp it up and then go. But man, it takes a lot of mental juice to be and try to keep all that contained in this little bubble until it explodes in your match, you know?
Of course, but I understand. And the whole eating thing, like let's say show starts at 7:30. The last meal I would have would be at 3 p.m. I would not eat up until the whole match is over or my show is over. But and it's crazy that you say that because we as athletes, because we that's what we are, right? Like
Yeah.
we were trained to be athletes and we were trained to be pro wrestlers. We take care of ourselves in order to take care of our opponents. But I've seen people get drunk before matches. I've seen
Oh,
people smoke weed before matches. I've seen people eat like 4 hot dogs and a poutine before a match. I'm like, no, that ain't happening. And I'm glad it never happened to one of the guys I was working with. But if I was in that situation, man, that would be bad because I would straight up tell him, listen, I'm not going out. Either you fix your shit or I'm not going out. Like if I see you drink a beer, even if it's just one, I'm not going out with you. Because I'm putting my life in your hands. I'm putting my body in your hands, and you're taking this lightning and you're drinking a beer or you're trying to smoke weed. Like that ain't working. So I understand where you come from, and I would never eat past 3 p.m. just to make
it
sure I was ready.
that thing about trusting, isn't it weird? Like I try to explain to people that tonight I'm going driving 3 hours to this place. There's going to be 200 people, and I'm going to go out there in my underwear. I'm going to wrestle someone that I'm going to meet someone for the first time. I'm going to shake his hand, and then we're going to go out there, and he's going to jump on me. I'm going to jump on him, and I have to trust this man that I've never met before in my entire life, that he's not going to drop me on my head, and he's going to have to do the same. Trust me that I don't drop him or kick him or knock him out, or that we take care of each other in that ring. Like, I cannot think of any other business, any other activity that you do that you go, hi, let's not die tonight. Yeah, I got you. You got me. Let's try to stay alive. And then we go into this ring and we fight. Like, call it fake, whatever the fuck you want. Come in the ring with me. Tell me after this if you feel like it's fake. There's a contest going on, and it's a contest that we were able to build within sometimes 30 minutes because some guys get there late, and then I have to. I can't only put 50% of my trust, 60, 70. I have to put 100% of my thing that if I flip off that top rope, that you're gonna be in position and that I'm not gonna fall on my fucking head, and then my career's over. And people, they're like, I don't understand. And it's like it goes back to what you said earlier, that fucking brotherhood. It's not only a brotherhood like what me and you have, or what our little gang, like our friends and our brothers have. It's a pro wrestling is a brotherhood. Like I can travel. You've traveled, right? You've gone to Ireland and you've wrestled there. You travel halfway across the world and wrestle on that night after traveling 13, 14 hours on a plane here and there. You wrestle. You got to give that trust to that same person. And that person understands that responsibility. And as much as I've seen guys not take care of their body, eat poutines and hot dogs, smoke weed, smoke cigarette, I completely agree with you. Like if I saw a guy that was half in the bag and I was wrestling him, like, dude, like me and you are not working together tonight. Like you better make sure it's a tag team and stay away from me because, but even though some people don't take care of their bodies, like we do, I still have not seen someone. I have unfortunately not had the opportunity to work. Fortunately, I've not worked with someone like that, but for the most part, I've been nothing but blessed with the people that I've been able to work with, because for the most part, I'm still alive and I'm still kicking. So it's something that trust went a long way with those people.
But like you said, it is important because I had the privilege to wrestle in Chile um, in March, which was what it was actually on my bucket list. Like it's something I wanted to do my whole life. And I got there the first time, and they needed to trust me in order to put me in that position. So I had to build my way, not build my way, but I had to build that trust within them. Be like, listen, I can do this. I'm a good worker. You can put me within your show. Like you can trust me. I'll take care of your guy. And I actually wrestled somebody that was fairly new to the wrestling business. I think he was wrestling for less than a year, like as a wrestler. And it was hard for me at the beginning because I felt like I trust myself, right? And I know that I would never hurt the guy, but I didn't fully trust the guy. So when we started talking about the things that we would like to do, and I was asking all the questions that I had to ask, like what's your wrestling style, what's your move set, are you stiff, are you snug, like what kind of worker are you? And I remember when we started talking about the match, I took control of the situation. I was making sure that I was putting myself in a good spot to be protected, and I was making sure I was protecting him at the same time because I didn't know his capacity. So I didn't feel comfortable enough letting him take care of my body that way. And then I got to we got to know get to know each other a little bit more, and we started training together like a week or two before we had our match. So that's where I developed a little bit more of a confidence towards him. And I'm like, okay, I'll let you do more than what I was willing to let you do. Not because I'm trying to be an asshole, not because I have an ego and I want to control everything. It's because I got to make sure that that guy is going to protect me. I've had 3 concussions. I don't want to
Mhm.
have a, I've dislocated my ankle. I almost dislocated, popped my shoulder. This almost dislocated my jaw. I don't want to come back to Montreal injured. Like I was there with my family. You know what I mean? So, like you said, building that trust, it's important. So I would never let anybody who even have one sip of beer wrestle.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like you can't be taking those types of chances, especially with the shit that we do. Like it's like there's so many things that go on while you're wrestling. Like it's not necessarily about the flips and the bumps and that. It's like you throw a punch when you're not supposed to throw a punch and not expecting it. All of a sudden, I have a concussion because you caught me on the side of the head when you're not supposed to, or you didn't do it right, or you were half in the bag and you didn't fucking realize I was that close. So many things that can go wrong. There are so many things that could go wrong already when you're just 100% both there or already.
Exactly.
I sometimes I wonder like, man, it's art. Like I call it, like there's part of it that's sport. There's part of it because you need to be an athlete, and that's one thing. Like I truly believe the best wrestlers, they're athletes. Like we're all athletes. We train as athletes. I don't only train for wrestling. I train to be an athlete.
Hmm.
It's what I am. It's what I've been for a long, long time, and that's not gonna change. I'm an athlete that does professional wrestling now, and that before that did other things. But yeah, that it's such an amazing thing, pro wrestling. There's so
It
many
is.
different
It
things
is.
that it's also a business that I didn't realize that. Yeah, it's, man, it's hard to go, oh, I don't want to do this anymore.
It is. It is.
Like,
No,
oh, I
I
just want
agree.
to quit. Like,
I
because there's
agree.
always the what if, right? Like maybe I could give it another chance. What if I do this? What if I change that? There's so many opportunities, and I'm like, ugh, I don't know. For me, I don't know what it's gonna happen after this. I don't know what kind of opportunities I'll see coming my way, but I was ready for a long time to call it, to say it was over and move on and do something else with my life. But I'm not sure that I'm at that point now. You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah, no, I feel you. But I heard somebody say that once is you don't quit wrestling, wrestling quits you. Right? It's like, because I feel like wrestling is, when you look at any other sport, there's a moment in time where you can't do it anymore. As far as, let's say, basketball, football, soccer, hockey, whatever, baseball, there's a point in life where your body can't go anymore. But
Yeah.
wrestling is different because even if you can't bump anymore, you can still work. So as long as you can work, there's still a possibility for you to not only make money but to be inside the ring.
Yeah.
So it's hard, man.
And even then, even after you're done with the ring, there's so many different parts
Yes.
of the business. You could become a manager. You could become a guy on the mic. You could be in the back. You can be a producer. You could be this. There's so many roles in professional wrestling that aren't just the two wrestlers in the ring. And it's hard because once you fall in love with professional wrestling and you're involved in all like us, like we help put up shows and things like this with torture sometimes, that you're really part of the whole everything. And that's also hard because you're there with your friends, your brothers, and you're helping out. And I'm not wrestling, but I'm here, and I'm in the locker room, and that atmosphere, that camaraderie. And then you're like, man, like, I know a lot of people miss that during this pandemic, is just showing up in the locker room on Saturday night and seeing the guys that you haven't seen in a week, or guys you haven't seen in a month, and you're like, hey, what's going on? And hey, and it's like it's a different world. Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. I think wrestling, it's hard to quit wrestling. Wrestling has to quit you. It's unfortunate, though, because I don't want to be that guy that one day wakes up and goes, oh, yeah, I can't do this physically anymore.
Mhm.
And like that, because I know how messed up I am here. It's going to take a lot for me to decide that I'm going to do this until the wheels fall off. Well, motherfucker, you might be doing this till you're 80. Because I know how hard that head is, like, and that's where I'm mature enough to know that about myself, so that once I feel secure enough for what's next in my life, and I go, okay, this is where I want to spend my energy, is in this new venture. Maybe it'll be part of pro wrestling, maybe it won't, but until I'm secure in that new thing or future thing, I'm not yet ready, I think, to bury my dreams of maybe, because even though I did accomplish my dreams of becoming a wrestler, which was the number one on my list, right? Through working for 4 years, I cultivated new dreams in the business as I got to know the business more. And then I saw, oh, there's Japan. Oh, there's here. Oh, I can go here. I don't necessarily have to strive for WWE. Maybe I could strive for this here and for this opportunity, tweak my style a little bit, change here, this and that, and I could go fight. So until I've kind of exhausted all those venues and really gone, okay, I've done as much as I'm willing or able to do in this business, then it's hard for me to, again, just put bury the career and go, all right, let's move on to something else, because a part of me doesn't want to regret me, stepping out too early, even though I've, only been in this for 4 years. Like, I accomplished, from what other people that have accomplished, it's nothing, but there's still, I feel like, a possibility and an opportunity for me. So I'm not 100% willing to put the nail in the coffin.
But I agree. And my mom once told me the regret of not doing something will kill you more than the regret of doing something, right? So even if you do something and you regret it, at least you did it. You
Yeah.
learn from it and you know what the outcome is. But that what if will haunt you past your life. Like even after you die, that what if will still haunt you, man.
It'll haunt your kids. It'll haunt your family. It'll haunt everybody, especially you'll be like, oh, that guy was always the what if guy. Like,
Yeah.
if there's one thing for me that scares me more than anything in life, is that I used to be that guy. I used to be that what if guy, that, like, I'm going to do this later on in life. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. I'm going to have a nice car. I'm going to have a nice house. And then but I never tell people how, but I'd be like, no, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. But I would never do anything. Oh, I'm going to do this. And then I would never do it. I'm going to do this. And I would never do it. And it wasn't until I started cultivating all these tools and through martial arts and through things, where I realized, like, oh shit, I have to work to accomplish all these things. Like, I can't be sitting back and just waiting for everything to happen. I have to fucking go out there and get them. Like, it's that simple. There's a people have done it before. Figure out what they've done. Don't do what they did wrong, and then they figure it out that way, or whatever you want to do. And now it's like, it's weird, because I'm at a point in my life where no matter what I decide, I know, like, if I say I'm going to do something, I don't give a shit if it's the hardest thing. It'll be like, fuck, I said I was going to do it. Now I have to figure out how I'm going to do it.
Gotta do it.
I
Gotta
have
figure
to.
out some
And
way.
right. And I think it's just throughout the years of pushing myself past where I thought was my breaking point. I just kept, oh shit, it's a plateau. I'm here. I'm just keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. And then I got to a point where I'm like, I got so much momentum now. I know my mind is strong that I can accomplish anything I want. It's like, I just need to pick. It might take me 10 years, but motherfucker, if I said I was going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's the key in life. It's like you said, you just go get it. Keep moving forward. No matter how bad life hits, no matter how many times you fall, you just gotta keep moving forward, and that's the only way to succeed and get what you want to get. You know?
It's such an important mindset. I find that people, um, I find people, a lot of people, they're content with what they have, uh, without ever search. And I don't blame or fault people for that. There's a lot of people that are super happy, but there's also a lot of people that are super not happy, like unhappy in life. They hate everything. And the worst for me is the people that blame everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but then you look at them and you go, motherfucker, what are you doing about this?
Exactly.
You complain and you blame everything. You blame the government's fault, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. What are you doing? Like, this pandemic has taught me something, is that, man, you need to be ready to adapt and swivel on a dime and get ready to, if your dancing partner dies, you're like, shit, I got to get a new dancing partner. Like, you know what I mean? Like, fuck, figured her out. Like, this pandemic, a lot of people, I feel, are using this as a crutch, as an excuse to go, my life is messed up. It's because of the pandemic. I'm not doing this anymore because I can't anymore. Oh man, it burns me. It burns when I see people use these small things as excuses, not necessarily for not working towards something, but accepting that it might not be going as fast as they wanted to. Oh, well, it's because of the pandemic. Well, it's because I can't do this because of this. And I'm like, man, I feel like people need to be more malleable and be more adaptable. If one thing that's going to come out of this is that you need to be ready to, man, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. This is a perfect example. Like, we're all stuck at home now. If you're going to be stuck at home and do nothing about it, then you're going to be unhappy. You need to keep the momentum, figure out something new, find another passion in the meantime. Like, life is going to get back to normal, but in the meantime, figure out something that is going to make you content for at least that moment. I feel people get lost in the, I'm just going to sit back and wait like everybody else.
But that comes with the mindset and kind of like education. When you say people like use this pandemic as crutches, the only reason why the human race is still alive, or even animals or in nature, like let's talk about the whole nature, even planet Earth, is because it's either you adapt or you perish.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, this is the situation that we're at. We have to adapt, otherwise we will perish. It's as simple as that. And some people don't want to take responsibility because it's harder to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, all right, this is on me. It's hard to do that shit.
Yeah.
But people want to take the easy way out. And it also comes with education. Like, I know, coming from a Latino background, my parents and my family, it was always the same thing. It was go to school, get a degree, and get a stable job, and work your whole life from 9 to 5, and you just, be content and happy and settle with what you have. Don't look for more, and don't look for less. Just settle down with what you have.
Mm-hmm.
So as a kid, not just myself, but I feel like a lot of people are educated that way, in the sense where, well, this is our reality and it has to stay this way. Therefore, you will stay within these walls. And it makes us not go get what we want. But that's not how life works. You have to get out of your comfort zone, and you have to believe that you can actually go somewhere else, and just don't even think twice. Just go. Don't talk to anybody about it. Don't think about it twice, and just act. And no matter what happens, you just adapt. You adapt to the situation. Like you said, if your dance partner dies, you just pick another one and, like, all right, let's dance. Let's continue this dance.
Uh, I feel like I see it a lot, and being a parent, I have two kids, and I a lot of times I put emphasis on teaching them the things that I wish I was taught when I was a kid. Like I grew up no father, single mother, working a lot. Lived on my grandparents. There was a dynamic there that wasn't like any other of my friends that had two parents at home and that had different things, right? I quickly understood that in life you don't all start at the same starting line. Like some people start below and have to work harder to accomplish the same level as someone that's already at that same level. Some people don't even have to work to be at this level, and you're down here and have to work so hard just to come at their same level. I understood that uh, really, really fast, but it was a slow burn because for me, I had to figure it out on my own a lot of the time. I was independent and no brothers, no sisters. I didn't have no bigger brother to look at, no nothing. So now with my kids, I try to make sure that all the stuff that kept me from blooming earlier, you know what I mean? Like I hit my prime instead
Mm,
of hitting my prime in my fucking 40s like I am now. I want my kids to hit their prime in their 30s, get ready
yeah,
for so I try to weed out all the shit that I thought wasn't good for me and that I missed as well, right? And I think that is important as a parent to reflect and to be self-aware of the not only the good things in your life and just not push that forward, because at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of parents are just teaching the same values to their kids that they were taught, and then you're just basically making a duplicate of yourself. And
yep,
so if you're fucking flawed and your thinking is all out of whack, then how do you expect generation after generation to grow? That small person is just going to grow up to be exactly the same as you. I don't want my son or my daughter to grow up to be me like me. I want them to be better than me. I want them to be smarter. I want them to be stronger, faster, be able to adapt, bing bang boom, not like me where I would break down and beg for help. Like I want them to be there's certain things that I need from them when they get to a certain point, and I feel that's extremely important. And to your point, I think that a lot of people, they just get lost in how busy life is, and they don't prioritize what's important because they don't have the time and they don't take that time. And they're at the end of the day, they're they have two kids, they're losing their mind, especially during this pandemic. I have to fucking teach them. I'm now all of a sudden I work my full-time job and I'm also a teacher. I have to help my God damn, when am I gonna get a break? And then you start being self-pity. Like when is it gonna be about me? Is it gonna be about me soon? One thing I realized when I had kids, it's not about me anymore.
it's
When it
never
is
about you.
about me, I'm like, holy shit, what is this? And it doesn't last long. And honestly, I don't want that anymore. Because I understand the importance of that. It's not about me. It's about the not only my kids, but my family. The wife. One thing this pandemic has taught me is that we were forced to spend a lot more time together, and I realized that, well, if we're going to succeed in life, all of us, it's not just about me succeeding, it's about everybody. So let's start working. What's your dream? What you have dreams, you want to accomplish this? Let me help you, you help me, and we help each other, and then it grows from there, and it just ends up making better humans in the long run.
Teamwork makes the dream work, man.
Fuck, man. I don't know. I know that the things are going to get better in the long run. It's just that, and I'm satisfied of where I am right now, like mentally, physically, and then the things are going in my life, the podcast, and I'm doing my best and all that in life. But a part of me wish that I could be tomorrow and not in 2 3 years, what I mean, down the road. It's like I miss being able to see you guys whenever I want to see you guys. I miss being able to get to a wrestling show and know that after, when it's all said and done, we're all gonna end up at McDonald's till 4 in the morning, and we're gonna talk shit. We're gonna talk some mad shit, and it's gonna
Until
be,
like 4 or 5 a.m. Like fuck it.
dude. Remember that time we went last time there? Holy shit, man! I got home at like 5 in the morning.
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
crazy,
this was the best. But
man.
But those are the things that I don't remember all my matches, but I guarantee you I can remember all the rides I did with Mustafa as we drove 2 3 hours to go here and over there, and or drive with Drew or drive with you guys. It's like, man, there's that part, that brotherhood, that, man, I that's what I miss. I miss that part of it, and I miss the working. I miss the man, yeah, I miss that. Yeah.
I feel you because when we were talking about like there's more to life than what you think there's, like your passions, all that stuff. I always tell the new kids at Chamber that wrestling. I don't want to say that what you're pursuing is not important, but what I was always telling them was wrestling is not all that within the pro wrestling world. It's like you said, it's the brotherhood. You don't like for me. I remember my first match, and that's about it. I don't remember any other match that I had. But like
Yeah.
you said, what I do remember is all the drives that we have, all the times we spent at McDonald's until 4 or 5 a.m., all the times we were cursing out and fucking talking shit because we had to put the ring down and put the ring up, and it's always like all of that stuff is those are things that I will always remember and always cherish, and that's what I always used to tell the guys at the chamber is like you have to enjoy the process. It's not about the outcome. The outcome, whatever the outcome is, it is not more important than the process because the
Yeah.
process will help build your character and the process will help you build and forge those relationships. Like like you said, that brotherhood. Like you guys for me are my brothers in arms. Like I would go to hell and back with you guys. I would
For
go to
sure.
you call me right now. I'm like, yo, Gabe, I need to go to war. I'm in. I don't even know who I'm fighting. I don't know what kind of weapons I might have. But if you tell me you need me to go to war, I'm there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think like that's the most important thing in wrestling. And like you said, that's something I miss as well. Just randomly seeing you guys on a Thursday, on a Monday, or on a Tuesday, and just working out and pushing ourselves. And man, just talking about it makes me sad, man.
I was thinking about this. I was thinking, was it today or yesterday when I knew I was going to talk to you, and it got me thinking about when we were during the training camp last summer, 2019, when
Yes, yes,
Mustafa and Mike were going to the tryout for WWE, and I remember,
amazing.
I remember those workouts, like all those hard workouts where like we saw breaking, like we saw breaking points for some of us, and we were there for the people that needed them, like us. It was just their bond got so much stronger between a few of us, and I was like, man, it's like going to war, right? Like you said earlier, it's like you go to war with people you never met before, but when that war is done and you're all survived, like these guys are gonna be with you for life. Like you're gonna know these people. Like I'm gonna be 85, 90 if I remember my name, and if I can still remember my name, I'm still gonna remember you guys, because there's never gonna be a situation where that you guys aren't my brothers anymore. Like it's like that bond that was formed. It's definitely something I miss, but I feel it's so necessary. I don't know. I don't like talking about like men and women, but like I know there's just, for me personally, there's I'm a family man first, and I enjoy my family. I love my family, but man, there's a part of me sometimes I just want to sit with the boys, and
Mhm.
I just want to be surrounded. And it's not necessarily about just being boys. I guess this was my point. I love being around like-minded people, people with the similar mindset, people that don't necessarily think or agree on everything, but at the end of the day, we all understand what makes us tick. We all understand that we're all these animals that like I know you, Mike, Dom, all these guys. Like you want to go to war, but we're going to war, and no one's gonna quit halfway through going, bitch, I gotta go home. Like I'm done with this. Like now I know we're not done. Like you guys take it out. I'm out. I don't. I would never have to worry about that. And that bond, that friendship, is so important for me. So important for me. I don't know what it is about that, but it's something that I've seeked my whole life, And I have it with a few people. I have it with friends from when I grew up, and I have it with you guys, and I have it with my family. Like I keep my circle tight and strong and small, but fuck those people that are inside that circle with me. Again, you go to war with them for them, and it wouldn't even be. I wouldn't even hesitate. I'd be like, yeah, let's go. We're done. Like I don't have to think about it. It's it's special, and I miss being able to just sit down and relax with you guys.
But and it is special. And you know when you said you would like you want to kick it out, chill with the boys and all that stuff. It's
Yeah,
not because we don't want girls involved. It's just because
yeah,
there's not a lot of women in wrestling, and there's not a lot of women that were in our circle. Because otherwise, they would have chilled with us as well. It has nothing to do with your gender. But
no,
I agree, man. It's hard, and it's something that is needed, especially sometimes I feel like as a man or as a male, I feel like we're not allowed to talk about our feelings and how much we miss our friends, and like we're not allowed to say that we love each other because there's still some of like this toxic masculinity within
oh
our
yeah,
society. So sometimes it makes it hard for us because like people don't really understand that type of relationship that we have. And when you start to talk about that relationship, there's either two things. Either you don't understand and you might want to try to understand more, or you just don't want to try to understand at all. And be like, what's wrong with you? Like
yeah.
you roll around men wearing like in your underwears, and then you want to chill with them and like just relax and talk.
It goes back to what I said earlier. The pro wrestling is a bond in itself where like sometimes only professional wrestlers will understand
Yes.
another professional wrestler. Because when I try to explain to people that don't know anything about professional wrestling, that don't know, that I've never met a professional wrestler, I try to explain to them it's like talking to someone that in a different language. They're like, I don't understand. You go in your underwear in front of hundreds of people and you sweat and slap each other, and then that, how much money you make? No, okay, all right, cool, 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 cool. And then you're like, fuck. But then me and you can sit, you're like, yo, how was your match? And I'm like, oh man, my match was this and that and that, and it's like
Yes.
instantly that connection. I think it's dangerous because I think a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers need that every weekend. I think I don't want to talk for any wrestlers, but I think there's maybe a few, there might be a lot that Saturday in that locker room is what they used to look forward to from Sunday all the way to next Saturday. They're
Mhm.
like, I just had it. Sunday comes around, I'm like, I'm looking forward to next Saturday. I hate my job. I just work so that I can go wrestle on Saturday. But those 5, 6 days in between, they're not happy. They're only happy on the Saturday because that's where they get to be surrounded by like-minded people that understand them, because there's it just it's not, like I said, not everybody understands what we do or who we are. And I feel like at first it must have been so hard for a lot of people that they didn't get to have that place where they can be themselves and be surrounded by people that immediately understood who they were, and they didn't have to question anything. I feel like that probably affected a lot of people in not such a good way, that they weren't
Well,
able to have that on the weekends.
no, because in a sense, that's our escape from reality.
Escape
Like,
is what I was looking for. Yeah.
and it's important to have that. Like for me, my two escapes from reality is basketball and wrestling. So whenever I would go to the chamber to either me work out or to train like other people, I would forget every problem that I would have. Everything that happened during that day or during that week, gone. It's just about me being with you guys
Yeah.
and teaching other people about pro wrestling, but escaping from that negative vibe that I had throughout my week. And when I was done, I was in a better mood. Same thing with basketball. When I don't have wrestling and I need to vent and just like change my mind, I just grab a ball and I go hoop. But now that we don't have that anymore, it's harder for us mentally. So we have to find ways to compensate for that escape. We have to find new ways to escape while staying at home.
Yeah.
It is hard, man. It's hard to do.
It goes back to adapting. You have to figure out different ways, different things that can make you tick, that can give you that little, that little drip of whatever you need, that little drug, something that you need, that morphine, that adrenaline, or whatever you call that, those hormones that are produced when you're super happy or whatever.
Yes, 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 yes.
Like you need to find, and I'm lucky that I'm surrounded by great people, my wife supporting, and my kids. Like, I love being around those three people, and I'm lucky because I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are stuck with people that they don't really enjoy being around, and that I do not envy at all, because I love my family. I love being part of it, like, surrounded by that with them. And so for me, honestly, I've said it many times, like, as much as it sucks and I don't want to get sick and I don't want anybody I love or that I know get sick, like, man, this pandemic has given me an opportunity to weed out all the bullshit in my life and to realize what's important, what's not, and where I need to put my energy, and where that guy, that person can straight fuck off. I don't need that, or I don't need this habit in my life anymore. I can just focus on this and this and this. And it's just made me grow in these 8-9 months. I feel like I'm way different than when I was at the beginning of this, and I'm trying to figure out if this new me is if pro wrestling is part of that world and life for that person that I slowly becoming right now. So I think it is, but I've yet to confirm it, I guess, in my head. It's a weird thing.
You gotta let the itch, get out a little bit. Just let it cool
When I
out.
when I start scabbing in my neck, that's when I know that I'm like, okay, fuck, I have to get back to it.
It's like there's something wrong. There's something wrong.
Yeah. Man, thanks a lot, man, for coming on. And I
No, my
enjoyed
pleasure.
talking to you, man. Fuck, man. I missed this shit, man. Remember last time you came over, we were watching basketball. You were watching the Celtics and
Yes,
Raptors.
Raptors won that game. I remember.
Yeah. Man, I've got into this pandemic. If one thing for me is I've gotten into way more of the sports that I love. Like, I'm a huge baseball, basketball, and football for me are 3 out of 4. Like, hockey, I don't follow at all. But at beginning, when basketball started, man, I fell back in love with basketball. Like, I don't know what it was about the bubble environment, but man, I discovered players that I never followed. I fell in love with guys like Damian Lillard that I never knew. Like, I fell in love with guys like, oh man, the two guys in Denver. What's
Joe Kitchen Murray, Jamal
Yeah,
Murray.
like, so many guys, the Heat, like Jimmy Butler and all those guys. I fell in love with that team. Like, their mentality and the way they work. Like, the Celtics, I learned so much about my team. And then baseball came around, and then I'm such a huge fan of baseball, and I started more and more watching because I had more time. So I'd want me. Plus, my son started watching with me, so he'd sit down, we'd watch baseball and football. My son is obsessed with football in this moment. That's all he wants to do right now. And then it just made me fall in love with all these sports again, and just getting to the point where I don't need to just watch the highlights and enjoy it. I can just sit back and enjoy the sport. Like, I would enjoy watching two basketball teams that I had no interest in. You know what I mean? But I'd watch them, and then I discovered this player. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's good. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to watch him play again. And then I want to, like, same thing with baseball, same thing with football. Now it's like I'm discovering this brand new passion and love for all these sports, and I'm so happy. Like, it makes me so happy. That's why, like, when basketball was done, I was like, ooh, because that bubble for me really did it for me. I don't know why, but, like, I know it's fun to watch with fans and stuff. Like, I'm not saying that, but there was just something about that atmosphere that I thought it brought the best out of a lot of those superstars.
Yeah, because I feel like people were playing basketball. It wasn't that much entertainment. It was just basketball games. And also teams were playing with that sense of urgency because all the teams that were there, a lot of them had to fight for their playoff spot.
Yeah.
If you watch the games during the regular season, once the season is about to end, the most intense games are the one for that eighth spot.
Yeah.
So you got 7, 8, 9 that are playing like intense basketball, which makes it that's much more fun to watch. But I agree. Like when basketball was done, man, like I feel empty. You know,
Oh man,
I'm trying to watch highlights. Like I saw Serge Ibaka leaving, had me in tears.
yeah,
And, you know, Van Vliet signed, so I was happy about that. But it's like I miss it. Like I need that basketball. Like even if it's not the Raptors playing, I love the sport so much that
yeah.
you know, as long as I watch good basketball, I'm down with that. That's why I didn't watch the finals because it was one sided. As much as I respect and love Jimmy Butler, because ever since he got drafted, he's been underrated, and I always loved him from the get go. I feel like him and Derrick Rose, if Rose was not injured, him and Rose would have been like an amazing tandem. Yo, just give me a sec. I need to charge my computer. I need to go get the charger.
No worries, no worries. We'll end it here anyway because I looked at the time there. I gotta go put my kids to bed. So,
It's all good. It's all good,
man, thanks a lot for coming on the Savage Show. I greatly appreciate you accepting my invitation. I love talking to you, man, and I could do this every single day, man. I miss you.
Yo,
I love you, man, and I appreciate you.
thank you for having me. And honestly, like you said, like I feel like we could have went for hours and
Yeah.
hours, but who would watch a 5-6 hour podcast, right?
It just end up with me telling you how much I miss you for 15 minutes and you tell me how much you miss me and then we just go back
No,
and forth.
no, but yo, I miss you too, man. I love you, man. I miss you
Yeah.
guys. I miss you, miss just being around and just training with you guys. But just in general, just having you guys around me and it's like I miss you guys. I love you too, man. Always, man.
All right, man. So that's it. Thanks a lot again. And we'll talk to you later, man.
Yes, most definitely, man.
Cheers.